Today, we're going to explore how the calculators that Commodore produced in the late 60s through the 70s, like this model MM2SR, eventually led to the development of the Commodore 64 and, by extension, the C64 Ultimate. If you're interested in seeing how this particular one was cosmetically restored, stick around for the second part of this video. When most people hear the name Commodore, they picture the classic beige breadbox computer, the Commodore 64. It conjures memories of 8-bit chiptunes, the agony of waiting for a game on cassette tape to load, or using a joystick with a single button. Well, that's definitely an iconic 80s snapshot. Focusing only on the computers means looking at the end of the movie and entirely missing the first part. The story of Commodore didn't begin with computers or microchips. It began with office equipment such as typewriters, mechanical adding machines, and filing cabinets. But it was the calculator that gave the company its trajectory into consumer electronics. Entering the 1970s, the mechanical age was dead and the electronic age was born. In 1971, a portable electronic calculator was basically the iPhone of the era. Commodore jumped in with the C110 and the Minuteman series. The Minuteman was a weird bridge device with a clunky keyboard and a snap-on power pack because battery tech wasn't small enough yet. The real leap came with the Commodore US-1, featuring a chip officially branded by General Instrument. Commodore's heavy reliance on chips led to a massive business ambush. Commodore was buying all their chips from Texas Instruments. TI looked at the booming market and decided to vertically integrate, launching their own line of calculators. Ruthlessly, TI sold the finished calculator to consumers for less than they charged Commodore for the chip alone. Commodore was bleeding money fast and simply couldn't compete. Commodore CEO Jack Tramiel learned a lesson that defined the rest of his professional life. Never rely on someone else for your core technology. He convinced Commodore's chairman, Irving Gould, to give him a massive loan, which was then used to buy a struggling chip manufacturer called Moss Technology. This purchase gave him lead engineer Chuck Peddle and the 6502 processor, which paved the way for the personal computer revolution. By 1977, the calculator market was bottoming out. Chuck Peddle told Jack Tramiel that calculators were a dead end, but the 6502 chip could run a computer. This was the key moment when Commodore's trajectory changed, guiding it to a path that would eventually lead to the C64 Ultimate. The Commodore PET 2001 was born, built like a tank in an all-in-one metal case with a built-in cassette deck. It was notorious for its awful, mushy, chiclet keyboard that had zero travel. It was made this way because Commodore was sitting on thousands of surplus calculator keys, and Jack Tramiel just pointed at the warehouse and said, "Use them." In a bit of poetic justice, the original prototype of the PET literally used parts salvaged from a Texas Instruments calculator. Commodore needed basic programming language for the PET, so they called a tiny company named Microsoft. Tramiel negotiated with Bill Gates like he was buying a used car, absolutely refusing to pay royalties and demanding a one-time flat fee. Gates was desperate for cash and took the deal, but was furious because he felt he practically gave the software away. Commodore completely refused to put Microsoft's name on the screen. Because of this, Gates hid an Easter egg. If you typed in the specific command, wait 6502, the screen would display Microsoft. By typing 6502 as the address, the code was secretly rigged to disrupt the standard interrupt sequence and print the hidden string. The main event happened in 1982 with the release of the Commodore 64, the best-selling single computer model of all time, with estimates of 12 to 17 million units sold. Because Commodore owned Moss Technology, they could produce the custom chips for the C64 for mere pennies. Texas Instruments was still trying to compete with their TI-99 4A. Having the upper hand, Jack Tramiel went to war by dropping the C64's retail price to $595 and forcing the entire industry into a massive price war. Tramiel knew he could survive on razor-thin margins since he owned the factory, but TI couldn't. TI took a massive loss and completely exited the home computer market. Jack Tramiel got his revenge for Texas Instruments forcing Commodore out of the calculator market, but he scorched the earth. Prices were driven down so low that nobody was making real money anymore. However, the massive success of the Commodore 64 gave it a special place to millions of people worldwide. When the brand was reborn as Commodore International Corporation, the success of the C64 couldn't be ignored, and the Commodore 64 Ultimate was given the honor as the first product to be launched by the new company. But none of this may have happened if that calculator war between Commodore and Texas Instruments didn't escalate into the battle to bring computers into the home in the late 80s. Stay tuned to see how this Commodore calculator was given a makeover and another chance at stardom. You already know what's in the box because you've already seen the first part of this video. So let's get to it. This is the unboxing. Lots of packing material, always appreciated. And a nice chunk of bubble wrap. Oh, it has a case that was not mentioned in the listing. Very nice. It's a very snug fit. I'm sure it has shrunk over the years. So, this is a Commodore calculator, model MM2SR. We've got some yellowing on the faceplate. I don't know if that's smoke or maybe just the usual yellowing that vintage electronics have from back at this time. On the back, there is a label. I don't know if a user has put that in or if that was the way it came from the factory, but it says special rechargeable battery instructions. If display does not light after adapter is plugged in, turn machine off. Allow batteries to charge overnight. So we are going to open this up. These were NiCad batteries from back then, and if the battery pack is still in there, it probably is no good, and quite probably has leaked, so we want to take care of that. Operator's guide on the back in case you don't know how to use a calculator. Perhaps back then it was new to some people, but it does give some examples of how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, doing square roots, exponents, percentages. It does have a memory function, how to store a number in memory, how to add a number to the value in memory, and how to clear the memory. Okay, so before we do anything else, let's open up the back and see if we can determine what that battery state is. It looks like we've got 4 Phillips screws. So, on to that. It's always nice to have one of these magnetic mats to keep your screws from flying all over the place. Also lets you know what order you remove them. So where the bottom screws, the heads seem more oxidized than the top. Don't know if that's because of somebody holding the calculator, perhaps. Although they do look like they're different sizes. Okay. We do have those NiCad batteries. It does look like there's a little bit of leakage, so we are going to remove those. No, they do appear to be soldered in, so this will also be a desoldering exercise. This rubber band was the only thing that was holding it down. Actually, you know what? Since there is a jack here, and I've read online that basically what people have done is they've replaced these NiCads with nickel metal hydride batteries. And I don't plan on using this as a calculator. It's more for a prop. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these wires, and then if I do need to run the calculator, have something on the display, I'm just going to find the appropriate power and use that jack. So let me get a pair of snips and we'll take care of that. Okay. So we're just going to cut the wires, and it looks like there's plenty of slack, so if there is a time that I do decide to put batteries in there, it's just going to be a matter of just stripping the ends of those wires and resoldering the pack. Make sure you do dispose of these appropriately. They can't go in the garbage, so put them out for your hazardous waste. It looks like there's just a little bit of precipitate that has ended up in the back plate, so that will need to be washed. The interior doesn't look too bad. There is something loose rolling around. Let's see if we can get that on there. So besides the obvious precipitate, there is like this small, looks like a cap to something. Small plastic piece. Once again, I don't plan on having this on, so I don't think that will be a big problem if it doesn't go back to where it belongs. It probably looks like perhaps was one of these plastic pieces that snapped onto the black portion of the case, this white plastic that the board is mounted to. Does have these plastic studs, and I'm sure now that I look at it that's where it came from. So nothing essential. That is not dust there, it's just aged. Okay, so what I'm going to do, oh yeah, there's more of these little caps on there. So not a problem. These are rubber. Okay, so I am going to rinse off this back plate, and then we'll get to the outside. We'll put it back together and get back to the outside
And I'm going to make sure that all of this precipitate from the battery is cleaned off, because it is probably alkaline or acidic and not good to have around. The interior has now been washed out. I did notice that there are 4 protrusions here, and that's basically the other end of the feet on the back of the calculator. The bottoms are fine. The tops are a little bit degraded. In fact, if you push too hard, I think they're going to break. Not that I need them, but it's interesting that only half of them really survived well. I did have to loosen the power jack in order to get the back off. So we are going to put that back in to place. And we'll get the screws back in, and then we'll get to restoring the exterior. Okay, so the back was just cleaned with water. I'm not really, going to see it, so I'm not really concerned about getting it perfect. The yellowing on the face, though, is something that I want to work on. The buttons seem clean, but there is some significant yellowing. So what I've done in the past with my other retro hardware is use a product that's kind of unusual, but it's worked for me. It's this Kaboom OxyClean shower tub and tile cleaner, and it does have some hydrogen peroxide, I believe. I don't usually retrobite. In fact, I have never retrobrited my stuff. I'm not sponsoring any of these products that I'm going to show you today. I'm just showing you what works for me. I'm not recommending them, but I do know that, and I'll show some examples later. I did clean an Amiga 500 case with the stuff, well, probably well over 7 years ago, and it looks great today. So it does not harm the plastic as far as I'm aware. I would be cautious in using it around things that are dyed. It may run that ink, but as far as plain plastic goes, has not caused any problems for me. If you are going to try it, I would put it in an inconspicuous spot on your item before going all the way to clean it. So we're going to take that and apply it to the lighter portion of the plastic. We'll see if we can get this yellowing out. I do recommend some nitrile gloves. Just to keep your skin free of anything that's in the product that might be harmful. I don't think there is, but still, best to be safe. So I've got some paper towels to catch any of the runoff, and I am going to be careful not to get the plastic part of the calculator. Anything clear, I don't know if that plastic might react and perhaps dull. So I'm going to use a little bit of masking tape and just cover that up so the overspray won't get to it. The black part of the plastic I'm not too worried about. It's not really going to be noticeable, but I do want to protect the clear plastic in case I do use this calculator again. Okay, and I've used this on keyboards, so the contacts underneath seem to be okay with it. Every time you go to the dentist, you get a free toothbrush. Save them. You'll use them for these. Okay. I have this thing, it's called a sonic scrubber. Basically, it's like a big electric toothbrush that these heads are going to rotate. All right, it doesn't look like a lot of that yellow has come off. Don't know why this is lighter. Perhaps there was a label there, or maybe it was due to oils from someone's hand. But there's one more trick that we can use to see if we can get it a little bit lighter. And I'll be right back with that. Okay, so this is a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. It is slightly abrasive, so I don't recommend using it on anything that's shiny, anything that's clear. However, textured plastic, and of course anything metal, it does really well on. I am going to stay away from that Commodore logo though, because I don't want to rub off the black. But I do want to see if this yellow does come off. Generally, I use this whenever an item has been scuffed. If plastic has been scuffed, it usually does a great job in either removing the scuff or making it less noticeable. Yeah, it does not look like this yellowing is coming off, so I would guess that this would be the typical retro bright patina that a lot of plastics on electronics back from this era have. Still, it looks like there was some surface dirt, some darker material that came out, just leaving the yellowed plastic behind. A lot of times too, with surfaces that have grooves, the toothbrush will definitely help there. You know, I'm wondering if somehow the interior of this case had something to do with the yellowing. Whether it was, well, yeah, you can look inside. It looks like some of that plastic from the feet actually degraded and got stuck to the inside. I'll wash this case out before I put it back. It does look like the other end of the snap is missing. However, definitely the original case to it. Okay. So for the glass portion, I'm just going to get a damp paper towel. There's just a little bit of dust that's on there, so I'm going to use a damp paper towel to take care of that. Okay, pretty good. I'm just going to go over the outside on the surfaces that weren't touched yet. Okay, there we go. Once again, probably if I wanted to get this absolutely uniform in color, perhaps some retro brighting would do it. However, I really don't retro bright my stuff, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Well, thanks for hanging around, guys. We'll catch you next time. As always, find some time to reboot and remember the past.